Welcome to Biggest Spoilars, the destination for exclusive spoilers, latest updates.
General Hospital spoilers indicate that suckers have been staying for months now to find out who shot Drew Cain, so could the ABC cleaner eventually reveal that it's Ezra Boyle? The megacity councilman first debuted in March of this time, but hasn't been seen on oil in weeks until lately. Sure, most of the reasons behind this are because his main plot centers on the mayoral crusade race, and that's wrapping up this week. Still, it's hard not to shake that, among all the main suspects within Drew's firing, GH has no way refocused any enterprise toward Laura Collins' mayoral opponent. As any avaricious cleaner piece's addict knows, the malefactor behind any whodunit? Plot is the person observers least suspect. It's not so important that Ezra is unable of murder, it's just that he and Drew are musketeers and abettors. Drew is hoping that Ezra becomes the coming mayor of Port Charles so they can work hand in hand to inflict annihilation in the little city and ensure to bring down Sonny Corinthos. They're also aligned with Jen Sidwell, and the entire platoon has satanic plans for Sonny's peers. Their first order of business is to get Laura boggled out of the mayor's office and Ezra fitted into it. To cake the plot, there has been enterprise that original companion, Jacinda Bracken, who also happens to be Michael Corinthos' justification for Drew's firing, was with another customer during the time the Machiavellian Solon was shot. All arrows are pointing to Ezra being Jacinda's client, and General Hospital spoilers note that Harrison Chase will score evidence of this at some point this week. This will blow Michael's justification out of the water, and while Ezra may pretend to be mortified about this information surfacing, especially if it pops up right before the election, could this have been part of his master plan each along? What if Ezra was the bone? Who shot at Drew? Ezra may have done so for whatever motive, indeed if he was instructed by Sidwell, as there was one point the terrorist believed Drew to be a liability. Also again, perhaps Ezra was tired of Drew's drama and wanted him out of the equation. Anyhow, Ezra may have organized everything impeccably, should the PCPD ever suspect it was him so, he shot Drew, also snappily and cleverly called Jacinda to his hostel room, so he'd have her as his justification. General Hospital spoilers remind suckers that November sweeps is each about shocking secrets being revealed, so there's a good chance that suckers learn that Ezra is Drew's shooter, but everyone differently is still in the dark, with the cherry on top of this agony being that he becomes the new Port Charles mayor, too. General Hospital spoilers allude that November sweeps may be the time that suckers learn the identity of Drew Cain's shooter. We've been led to believe that Willow Tate is the shamefaced party, but that seems too logical a choice, a red herring if you will. What are the chances that the marksman is actually sleazy Ezra Boyle? There are lots of suspects in the firing case, but Ezra's name is among them. That could be the smoking gun. Let's break down this succulent possibility, GH suckers. Did Ezra shoot Drew? Ezra has been seen sporadically since his March debut. When we do see him, he's generally got drool flying out of his loud mouth, and he's Laura Collins' competition for mayor. Given how sleazy Ezra is, it's sus that the show has left him off the suspect list. Which could mean everything. Ezra is running against Laura Collins for mayor. Ezra and Drew want to consolidate their power to take down Sonny Corinthos, and Jen Sidwell is part of the crew. Step 1 is getting Ezra in as mayor. But a sticking point could be that Jacinda Bracken, Michael Corinthos' justification for Drew's firing, was with Ezra the night of the firing, commodity that Harrison Chase finds out about this week. Michael also has no justification, pointing to the possibility that Ezra shot Drew. And how would it look that a mayoral seeker was paying for his adulterous conditioning? Did Ezra shoot Drew for Sidwell? If Ezra shot Drew, for whatever reason, he may have called Jacinda to his hostel room subsequently as his justification. What we do know is that it has been established that they know each other. At the veritably least, red-hot General Hospital spoilers allude that all isn't as it seems with Drew's firing and that the verity has yet to come out. Will Ezra come the new Port Charles mayor with a raging secret in his reverse fund? Surely perhaps. The humid air of Port Charles hangs heavy, not just with the late autumn chill, but with the palpable tension of a secret yet to be unearthed. For months, the question has echoed through the hallowed halls of General Hospital, whispered in the corridors of the PCPD, and debated in the backrooms of Charlie's Pub, who shot Drew Kane. The charismatic, yet recently hardened, businessman was gunned down in a brazen attack that has since sent shockwaves through the community, tearing at the fabric of alliances and pitting friend against friend, family against family. As the November sweeps descend upon the fictional town, promising a baptism of fire for its residents, the stage is set for a revelation that could permanently alter the political and criminal landscape. The answer, long shrouded in misdirection and red herrings, may finally be slithering out of the shadows, and its name is Ezra Boyle. This is not merely the resolution of a whodunit, it is the beginning of a new, more dangerous era. It is a story of encouraging words masking venomous intent, of angry threats simmering beneath a veneer of political civility, and of a single gunshot that was not an end, but a catalyst for a war. The journey to this potential revelation is a tangled web of ambition, partnership, and a masterfully constructed alibi that is only now beginning to fray at the edges. The ghost in the machine, Ezra Boyle's calculated absence. To understand the gravity of Ezra Boyle as a suspect, one must first examine his presence, or rather, his curiously timed absences, on the canvas. He debuted in March with the slick polish of a career politician, a man whose smile was a carefully crafted tool and whose handshake felt more like a contractual obligation. As a city councilman with his sights set on the mayor's office, he was positioned as the ideological antithesis to the incumbent, Laura Collins. Where Laura is driven by a legacy of compassion, community, and a hard-won sense of justice, Ezra represents a new, ruthless form of progress, one built on backroom deals, consolidated power, and the systematic dismantling of the old guard. For weeks at a time, however, Ezra has been conspicuously absent. The initial, surface-level explanation was narrative convenience. His main storyline, the mayoral campaign, was building to its climax, and the canvas was crowded with the immediate fallout of Drew's shooting. But in the lexicon of soap opera storytelling, absence is never neutral. It is either a sign of a character being phased out or a deliberate narrative sleight of hand. In Ezra's case, his sporadic appearances now feel less like a writing oversight and more like a calculated maneuver by both the character and the writers. By keeping him largely separate from the central whodunit mystery, the show has masterfully ensured he remains outside the circle of immediate suspicion. The core suspects have been those with clear, emotional, and often messy connections to Drew, his loved ones, his business rivals, his enemies. Carly Corinthos, with her complex history and fierce protective instincts, has been in the crosshairs. Michael Corinthos, whose corporate war with Drew placed him at the scene, has lived under a cloud of suspicion. Even Willow Tate, driven by a mother's feral desperation to protect her child from Drew's legal maneuvers, was presented as a plausible, almost too logical culprit. These are suspects of passion, of impulse. Ezra Boyle does not operate in the realm of passion. He operates in the cool, detached realm of strategy. And that makes him far more dangerous. The alliance of convenience, Drew, Ezra, and the specter of Jen Sidwell. The most compelling argument against Ezra's guilt has always been his very public alliance with Drew Kane. They were, by all appearances, partners. They stood shoulder to shoulder at press conferences, their rhetoric aligned in a singular, destructive goal: the utter annihilation of Sonny Corinthos' empire. Drew, freshly hardened by his ordeal with Victor Cassadine and Nicholas's betrayal, had shed his pacifist skin. He saw Sonny's world not as a complex ecosystem with a moral center, but as a cancer that needed to be cut out of Port Charles. In Ezra, he found a willing surgeon. Their plan was diabolical in its simplicity. Step 1. Use the mayoral election to oust Laura Collins, whose complicated but ultimately tolerant relationship with Sonny made her an obstacle. Step 2. Install Ezra as mayor, giving their faction direct political power and control over the Port Charles Police Department. Step 3. With the city's authority in their pocket, move decisively to seize Sonny's peers, the lifeblood of his legitimate and illegitimate operations. It was a corporate political coup d'état, and they were not acting alone. Looming over this entire enterprise is the shadowy, terrifying figure of Jen Sidwell. A domestic terrorist with a grudge and a bottomless capacity for cruelty, Sidwell is the silent partner, the financier, and the ideological engine of this vendetta. He doesn't just want Sonny's business, he wants his legacy erased. For a time, Drew was Sidwell's perfect weapon, a respected, legitimate businessman with a personal vendetta that made him ruthless. But what happens when the weapon becomes unpredictable? What if the liability is not the target, but the ally? There was a distinct moment, palpable to viewers, when Sidwell began to view Drew not as an asset, but as a potential problem. Drew's methods, while aggressive, were still tethered to a certain legalistic framework. His anger, though all-consuming, was personal. Sidwell's is existential. It is entirely plausible that Sidwell, seeing a flicker of Drew's old morality or a potential for him to go rogue, issued a quiet directive to his more pliable puppet, Ezra Boyle: neutralize the liability. This provides a powerful motive that transcends personal animosity. Ezra's shooting of Drew would not be a crime of passion, but an execution of orders. It is the ultimate act of corporate espionage within the criminal underworld, removing a partner who has outlived his usefulness or become a threat to the larger mission. This motive aligns perfectly with Ezra's character. He is a man who serves power, and if Sidwell is the true source of power, then his alliance with Drew was always conditional, always expendable. The alibi woven from silk, Jacinda Bracken and the hotel room. A master plan, however, is only as good as its escape route. This is where the character of Jacinda Bracken, the high-end escort, becomes the linchpin in this entire theory. Michael Corinthos's entire defense against attempted murder charges has rested on a single, fragile pillar: his alibi that he was with Jacinda at the time of the shooting. The PCPD, and particularly Detective Harrison Chase, have struggled to break this story. But what if the alibi is both true and devastatingly false? The emerging spoilers suggest a breathtakingly clever twist. Jacinda was with a client that night, but that client was not Michael, it was Ezra Boyle. Imagine the scene: the gunshot echoes in the night. Drew Kane lies bleeding on the pavement. The assassin, cool and collected, does not flee in a panic. Instead, he retreats to a prearranged location, a hotel room where a transactional witness awaits. He places a call, or perhaps has a standing arrangement. Jacinda arrives. For the next several hours, Ezra Boyle constructs an ironclad alibi, one wrapped in the silk sheets of a paid encounter. The genius of this scheme is its multi-layered deception. First, it provides Ezra with a concrete alibi, a person who can swear to his whereabouts. Second, and more diabolically, it simultaneously torpedoes the alibi of his ally's primary enemy, Michael. By being Jacinda's client that night, Ezra not only protects himself but actively frames Michael for the crime. It is a single move that achieves two critical objectives: it eliminates a potential threat, Drew, and it incapacitates a key opponent, Michael, by leaving him legally exposed and without a defense. When Harrison Chase, in his dogged pursuit of the truth, inevitably uncovers the financial records, the hotel security footage, or the testimony that places Jacinda with Ezra, it will create an earthquake. Michael's alibi will be blown out of the water, as the spoilers state, but the immediate suspicion will not fall on Ezra as the shooter. The public and legal narrative will initially be one of scandal, a mayoral candidate caught in a sordid affair with an escort. Ezra will, of course, pretend to be mortified. He will feign embarrassment, apologize to his family and supporters, and frame it as a personal failing, a momentary lapse in judgment. In the court of public opinion, he will play the repentant sinner, hoping for forgiveness. A sex scandal is survivable, a murder charge is not. He would gladly trade one for the other. The motive beyond Sidwell, a partnership fraught with peril. While the Sidwell directive is a compelling motive, Ezra may have had reasons of his own to want Drew out of the picture. Alliances in Port Charles are as stable as a house of cards in a hurricane. What if Ezra grew tired of Drew's drama? Drew's singular focus on Sonny, while useful, also came with immense baggage: the constant scrutiny of the PCPD, the meddling of his extensive family, and his volatile relationship with Carly. Drew brought a level of chaotic attention that a shrewd politician like Ezra would find detrimental to a long-term, clandestine operation. Furthermore, with the mayoral election nearing its end, what need did Ezra truly have for Drew? Drew was the financier, the public face of the business end of their partnership. But with Sidwell's deep pockets and the prize of the mayor's office within grasp, Drew's role was diminishing. Perhaps Ezra saw a future where Drew was not a partner, but a rival, a man who knew too much and could, if he ever regained his moral compass, become a witness against him. Eliminating Drew at the peak of their collaboration would be the most ruthless form of corporate raiding. It would allow Ezra to inherit the entire anti-Sunny apparatus without having to share power or profits. He would be the sole political beneficiary of their shared work, answering only to the distant and deniable Sidwell. The perfect storm of November sweeps, revelation and ascension. The spoilers point to November sweeps as the moment of truth, and the timing is poetically cruel. Soap opera tradition dictates that the culprit in a whodunit is often the person the audience least suspects, revealed at the moment of their greatest triumph or most profound vulnerability. The potential for drama here is immense. Picture this, election night in Port Charles. The votes are tallied, and against a backdrop of personal scandal, Ezra Boyle ekes out a victory. He stands at a podium, basking in the glow of his win, giving a speech filled with encouraging words about a new dawn for Port Charles, all while Laura Collins and her supporters look on in devastated silence. It is his baptism into ultimate power. Simultaneously, in another part of the city, Harrison Chase is putting the final pieces together. He confronts Jacinda, or uncovers a credit card receipt, or cracks an encrypted message. The truth clicks into place. The audience is let in on the secret. We see a flashback to the night of the shooting, confirming that Ezra was the triggerman. We are made complicit in the knowledge. But here is the cherry on top of this nightmare, as the spoilers so aptly put it, while the viewers know the truth, the characters in Port Charles do not. Ezra Boyle becomes the new mayor of Port Charles with a raging, murderous secret in his back pocket. He has achieved everything he set out to do. He has the power, he has neutralized his loose cannon partner, and he has framed his enemy for the crime. He stands atop the city, a wolf in mayor's clothing. This sets up months of incredible drama. The fallout would be catastrophic. How would Michael, now facing a trial without an alibi, react when he learns the man who framed him is now the most powerful politician in the city? How would Laura, in her defeat, begin to suspect that her opponent is not just sleazy, but homicidal? How would Sonny, the intended ultimate target of all this machination, respond to this new, empowered threat? The angry threats he has long dispensed would now be directed at a figure with official authority, raising the stakes exponentially. And what of Carly? Learning that the man who shot the father of her child is now the mayor would unleash a fury unlike any she has ever known. Her quest for vengeance would put her on a direct collision course with the entire power structure of Port Charles. Conclusion: a baptism of fire and lies. The theory that Ezra Boyle shot Drew Kane is more than just a solution to a mystery. It is a narrative engine that propels the story of General Hospital into uncharted and deeply compelling territory. It transforms a simple whodunit into a complex tragedy of betrayal and a chilling commentary on the nature of power. The encouraging words of a new mayor would be a grotesque mockery, the angry threats of his enemies would be legitimized, and the entire city would undergo a violent baptism, not into renewal, but into an era of unprecedented deceit and danger. The pieces are all there: the absent suspect, the diabolical alliance, the perfectly crafted alibi that destroys an enemy, the shadowy mastermind, and the triumphant ascension of the villain. As the November sweeps unfold, promising shock and awe, the citizens of Port Charles should brace themselves. The man they are about to elect as their leader may not just be a political opponent to be defeated, but a killer waiting in the wings, his baptism into office consecrated by the blood of his former ally. The truth is coming, and it is wearing a very convincing smile.